The maths of Russia's war against Ukraine was supposed to be simple. Russia has a population that is about 4 times the size of Ukraine's. All that Putin would have to do is throw so many soldiers at Ukraine that its defenses collapse and the so-called special military operation would be complete. It's an equation that has worked well for Russia in the past, but Ukraine has broken the maths of Russia's war by causing a catastrophic death toll that is collapsing Putin's front lines. We'll get to why all of this is happening to Russia later in the video, but first there are a couple of headline statistics that showcase just how brutal Putin's war has been and continues to be on the Russian military. And the first of these statistics shows just how draining the Ukraine war has been on the Russian military. Russia is officially losing around twice as many soldiers per month in Ukraine as it did in its decade-long war in Afghanistan. The Ukraine meat grinder has reached such immense efficiency that it's destroying around 35,000 of Russia's soldiers per month. That's according to Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, who met with some of Ukraine's soldiers during a presentation of a new drone unit initiative. There, he delivered the statistic, in addition to pointing out that Russia's fatalities had risen considerably month by month during 2025. TVP World provides a few more details, noting that Ukraine's president said that Russian fatalities rose from 14,000 per month to 35,000 over the course of the previous year. Add the wounded, captured, and deserters to that figure, and you get what Zelensky claims to be a situation where Russia's army is finally stagnating. How? Well, Zelensky claims that Russia is losing up to 45,000 soldiers per month as casualties, but it mobilizes between 40,000 and 43,000 soldiers. Zelensky adds, of those 43,000, about 10 to 15% desert, and there are wounded as well. You can see that their army is no longer growing, thanks to our drone technologies and drone operators. The mention of drone operators is key here, as Zelensky claims that they're responsible for the majority of the deaths that Russia's military now faces in Ukraine. As for how many, that's another shocking statistic. 80% of all the Russians killed in Ukraine are victims of Ukraine's unmanned aerial vehicles. These miniature death dealers are striking with such precision and explosive power that there seems to be nothing that Russia can do to stop them. By the way, we've published a video covering what Ukraine's conducting 80% of its strikes against Russia's targets using drones means both for Ukraine and Russia. Check out that video if you want more detailed insight into this particular statistic. Russia losing more soldiers in a month in Ukraine than the 15,000 it lost during the entire Afghanistan war is bad enough. But the second statistic we have to share makes things so much worse for Russia. You may have noticed a little hint in something we said earlier. We told you that Zelensky claims that Russia is experiencing up to 45,000 casualties per month. However, we also said that December saw Ukraine's drone operators kill 35,000 Russian soldiers. If something seems a little off about those numbers, you're correct. Russia's ratio of dead to wounded is horrendous, and it's another major reason why the maths of Putin's war simply isn't working. Traditionally, the expected ratio of deaths to injuries that a military is expected to experience during a war is 1 death for every 3 wounded. That number doesn't come from nowhere. It's based on the average killed to injured ratio seen during World War II, which is the bloodiest conflict to have ever engulfed the planet. The ratio, though a solid basic measuring stick, doesn't account for advances in modern warfare and medicine. New strategies and better medical procedures mean that a modern military typically experiences a ratio of killed to wounded that is far more favorable. For instance, the US ratio during the conflict in Afghanistan was about 1 dead for every 10 wounded, and it went down to 1 dead for every 13 wounded among the US Marines. Russia, as supposedly one of the world's strongest military powers, should be at least able to keep the 1-to-3 ratio seen during World War II. It isn't, and it's so far away from that ratio that it's seeing far more of its soldiers being killed than injured in Ukraine. That wasn't the case during the first couple of years of the Ukraine invasion. Up until the spring of 2024, Russia was roughly sticking to the 1-to-3 ratio that was seen during World War II. Again, this was far from a good performance. With the supposed strength of its equipment, Russia should have had a much better ratio. However, it was at least hitting 1-to-3, which would have meant that Putin's maths would eventually add up. After all, a wounded soldier can be returned to the battlefield at some point, assuming their injuries aren't so severe that they're permanently disabled. Add mobilized recruits and contract soldiers to these returning troops, and Russia sits pretty in a situation where it can continuously replenish its losses, putting Ukraine under massive amounts of pressure in the process. However, the spring of 2024 is where it all started to go wrong for Russia. Slowly but surely, Russia's ratio of dead to wounded started to get worse. Gradually, it progressed, hitting 2-to-3 and then 3-to-3. Finally, by the end of 2025, there will have been a complete reversal in what any modern military would expect to see. Russia was losing more of its soldiers to death than to injury. Specifically, the Russian death toll amounted to 56% of the country's total casualties by the end of 2025, giving it a ratio of 12 killed to every 10 wounded. We could also write this as 6 dead to every 5 injured, but either way, this is terrible news for Russia. Zelensky's comments about the scale of Russia's losses being unsustainable are now seen in an even harsher light from the Russian perspective. And as Putin sits surrounded by the few Kremlin loyalists whom he hasn't purged, he has to be asking himself the question that we mentioned at the beginning of the video: why is this happening to Russia? The Russian military's general incompetence and reliance on attritional strategies that naturally lead to casualties aside, there are 2 major reasons why its dead-to-injured ratio is so bad, and the first of those reasons is likely the one you expect: Ukraine's drones. What we've seen over the course of the Ukraine war, and especially during the last couple of years, is that drones have replaced artillery as Ukraine's most efficient weapon. In terms of sheer numbers alone, Ukraine's drones represent an ever-present threat to Russia's forces. 2025 alone saw Ukraine plan to build at least 2.5 million drones, and it may have reached a production capacity of 4.5 million by the end of the year. Those drones, as we noted Zelensky pointing out earlier, are killing Russians in record numbers because they are much more precise and deadly than artillery. Don't get us wrong, if a Ukrainian artillery shell scores a direct hit on a Russian soldier, that soldier will be turned into a bloody mess. However, as Ukraine Today points out, that's not what often happens with artillery. More often, a shell strikes the ground in the general vicinity of its target, with the explosion firing off shrapnel in all directions. This shrapnel is dangerous, it can kill. However, it's also very possible that the shreds of shell metal cause injuries rather than fatalities. Drones are very different, at least in the case of the FPV drones that Ukraine is using to inflict most of the Russian military's deaths. FPV drones trade power for precision. Yes, their explosive payloads are smaller, but these drones are cheaper to build than artillery and can be flown directly to a target, striking with such a high level of precision that the target is more likely to be killed. Combine that precision with the sheer number of drones that Ukraine has in its arsenal, and you get an ever-present threat that is more effective at killing than artillery has ever been. It's this efficiency that has led to 80% of targets that Ukraine destroyed being taken out by drones in 2025. Drones have even started to help Ukraine carry out the sorts of tasks previously entrusted to artillery. For instance, artillery has always been useful in suppressing the movement of troops and vehicles. Artillery that targets key choke points into which a defending force leads an aggressor is a tactic that is as old as artillery itself. And though Ukraine still uses its artillery for this purpose, its drones have also been getting in on the act. Now, a Russian unit that gets corralled into a location that artillery is targeting also has to deal with being bombarded with FPV drones. The artillery creates panic and causes some casualties. The drones take a more precise approach and can even be used to pick off injured Russian soldiers who might have otherwise survived their shrapnel wounds. And that brings us right to the second reason why so many Russian soldiers are being killed, that its dead-to-wounded ratio is so skewed. But before we go deeper into that, if this is the kind of insight into military strategy that you enjoy, make sure that you're subscribed to The Military Show. We break down what's happening like this in daily videos. The Ukrainian battlefield being so saturated with drones doesn't just mean that more soldiers are being killed in precision strikes. Evacuation of the wounded has also been made incredibly difficult, which means that soldiers who might have survived an artillery strike, for example, are more likely to be left behind in the dirt than saved by their comrades. Ukraine is deploying a heady combination of strike and reconnaissance drones, the latter of which do a stellar job of tracking and recording any movements that Russia's forces make over open terrain. Once Ukraine knows where the Russian forces are going, it can strike. And when the initial strike is over, its reconnaissance drones can continue their never-ending watch, allowing Ukraine to react if Russia tries to send evacuation teams in to rescue the wounded. The results of this on Russia's manpower are catastrophic, so stick with us to the end to find out how bad that predicament is for Russia. As for Ukraine's proliferation of drones, they eat into something that is known as the golden hour. In military terms, the golden hour refers to the period after a soldier sustains an injury in which they need to be evacuated to a medical facility to ensure their chances of survival are as high as possible. Ukraine's drones have eroded this concept of the golden hour for Russia's forces. Now evacuation teams don't really have the choice of evacuating casualties as soon as possible. They have to wait for a break in Ukraine's drone wall, assuming one ever comes, before they even have a chance of tending to the wounded. In short, it's taking far too long for Russia to evacuate its injured soldiers, and every minute counts in these types of situations. Not that Russia was particularly good with evacuations before the changes that we started to see in 2025. In July 2024, Medusa reported that Russian military doctors were already saying that soldiers who could have been saved were instead dying in the ditches and mud of Ukraine. You wouldn't have known that if you listened to Russia's defense ministry. It claimed the mortality rate for soldiers who died of injuries from which they could have been saved was only 0.43% in 2023. This relates to soldiers who received some form of medical assistance but died anyway. However, the ministry's own doctors used a different metric called potentially savable soldiers. And under that metric, at least 5.2% of the Russian soldiers who died in 2023 of treatable injuries did so without receiving any form of medical help. That's the problem. Even if it was true that only 0.3% of soldiers who received treatment were dying, the fact that 5.2% of Russia's deaths were happening because soldiers didn't receive treatment was indicative of an evacuation problem that had nothing to do with Ukraine's strike and reconnaissance drones. Some in the Ukrainian military have seen Russia's inability to evacuate its soldiers firsthand. In August 2024, Espresso.Global spoke to the staff sergeant of Ukraine's 13th Operational Brigade Charter of the National Guard, Kirilo Duchko. He said, "The enemy does not take away its killed personnel. They're lying in the middle of an open field. I'll tell you more, the Russians do not even evacuate their wounded. Accordingly, the wounded are either dying themselves or the Ukrainian defense forces are helping them." And Duchko is far from the only person to point out this strange concept. In a February 2025 article for the Washington Post, Jim Garrity wrote about visiting injured Russians who were receiving treatment in Ukrainian hospitals. The twist here is that none of the people that Garrity spoke to were soldiers. They were everyday Russians who had been living in the Kursk Oblast at the time of Ukraine's occupation. Russia responded to that occupation by shelling the settlements that Ukraine occupied, and the people living in those settlements ended up being hit by their own side. One of the patients that Garrity spoke to, named Ludmila, told a story about how she was sitting in her house when she heard a plane fly overhead. Seconds later, a massive explosion occurred that caved her roof in and left her trapped under the rubble. Fortunately, her son wasn't trapped and he had the wherewithal to seek out Ukrainian soldiers for help. Ludmila was pulled from the rubble and taken to a Ukrainian hospital across the border. In her own words, "If there had not been Ukrainian soldiers there, we do not know what would have happened to us." It comes to something when Russia's people stand more chance of being evacuated by their enemies and their comrades. But returning to Russia's evacuation issue in 2025, which is being hampered by Ukraine's drones more than ever before, it seems like leaving soldiers to die is a feature, not a bug, of the strategy that Russia employed during the year. For much of 2025, Russia was using infiltration tactics to sneak tiny units of soldiers into Ukrainian settlements. Those tactics obviously involved the soldier crossing over to the Ukrainian side of the combat lines, where they were supposed to bed in and wait for reinforcements to arrive so that the territory they entered could be captured. More often than not, the reinforcements never come, and if they do, they may not have tanks or armored vehicles because Russia has depleted its Soviet stockpiles to such an extent that it's been forced to rely on infiltration tactics. Now, what do you think happens to an infiltrator if they get injured behind the Ukrainian lines? No Russian evacuation teams are coming for them, so they have to hope that Ukraine shows mercy by capturing them rather than taking them out with a drone. So we've learned that Russia is losing soldiers at a faster rate than ever before, that its dead-to-wounded ratio has taken a turn, to the point where more of its casualties are dead soldiers than injured ones. The obvious question, and one that we mentioned earlier, is what does all of this mean for the future of Russia's manpower? The answer is that Russia can't increase the size of its army in Ukraine either in numbers or capabilities. On the capability front, every soldier that Russia loses to Ukraine's drones is a soldier who at least had some level of combat experience. Granted, that experience may have amounted to little more than suicidal charges against Ukraine's defenses, but others might have had specialized knowledge, perhaps an understanding of the defenses that Ukraine has deployed, or knowledge about Russia's future plans. All of that disappears when a drone takes out a soldier. And those that Russia cycles in as replacements are often fresh recruits who have never been on a battlefield before. Combat experience is being lost at a rapid pace, as soldiers who would have transferred knowledge and skills to Russia's newcomers are instead being blown to pieces during their attempted assaults. Fresh-faced recruits with nobody to teach them are more likely to die. What Russia has is a vicious cycle where each batch of reinforcements that it sends into Ukraine is being destroyed faster than those that came before. On the numbers front, things aren't looking much better for Russia. Though it has been able to sustain its manpower advantage in Ukraine up to this point, we're now starting to see Russia's losses eclipse its recruiting. As the Kyiv Independent reported in December, Russia's 2026 recruitment target is 409,000 soldiers. That amounts to a little over 34,000 recruits per month, which is 1,000 less than the 35,000 Russian troops Ukraine killed in December. Remember, these were kills, not casualties, so the odds are that Russia's recruitment target means it's shooting for anywhere up to 10,000 soldiers fewer than it's losing to death and injury each month. Ukraine has also set itself a target of 50,000 Russian deaths per month for 2026, which, if hit, would mean that Russian recruitment is nowhere near the level that it needs to be to sustain the losses the country's military is enduring. Again, Putin's military maths no longer adds up. What this all amounts to, according to the European Council on Foreign Relations, or ECFR, is the shattering of the Russian endurance myth that has persisted for most of the Ukraine war. As the Council points out, this staggering price that Putin has paid in blood of his soldiers hasn't reaped particularly impressive results. Yet despite all of this, Kyiv still controls roughly 80% of its internationally recognized territory. Since 2014-15, when Russia first seized 7% of Ukraine, Moscow has captured just another 13%, some 116,206 square kilometers, the ECFR points out. The bells have started tolling for the Russian front line. Russia hasn't collapsed yet. However, these figures show that its forces are on their collective deathbed, as more and more soldiers die, only to be replaced by recruits who have no idea what awaits them in the killing fields that have become the combat lines in Ukraine. What Putin is watching now is the result of an attritional strategy that is collapsing before his eyes. Endless losses and relentless pressure can't last forever, and Ukraine is making sure of it. Putin's last bet is that the West will come to his rescue, and you can find out what that means and why it won't happen in our video. And if you enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe to The Military Show for more analysis of the damage that Ukraine is doing to Russia's self-proclaimed image as one of the world's most powerful nations. And thank you as always for watching.